Protests and Chaos in China, Top 12 China Stories of 2022 by China Uncensored. China is a country that never ceases to surprise the world with its dramatic events and issues. From politics to economy to society, China has witnessed many changes and challenges in 2022. Here are some of the top stories that captured the attention of the global audience and revealed the true nature of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and its leader Xi Jinping. 12. Chinese overseas police stations. In 2022, China expanded its influence and interference in other countries by setting up police stations and sending police officers abroad. These stations were ostensibly for protecting Chinese citizens and businesses, but in reality they were used for spying, intimidating, and harassing dissidents, critics, and ethnic minorities. Several countries launched investigations into these illegal activities and demanded China to respect their sovereignty and laws. 11. Russia's invasion of Ukraine. China's relationship with Russia was tested by the latter's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. While China officially supported Russia's sovereignty and territorial integrity, it also criticized Putin for threatening to use nuclear weapons and destabilizing the region. China was worried about the impact of the war on its energy supplies, trade, and security interests. China also faced pressure from the US and its allies to join the sanctions against Russia and to uphold international law. 10. Pelosi visits Taiwan. In a historic move that angered China, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in October 2022, along with a bipartisan delegation of lawmakers. Pelosi met with Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen and expressed strong support for Taiwan's democracy, security, and human rights. She also announced a new U.S.-Taiwan trade agreement and a joint initiative to counter China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region. China denounced Pelosi's trip as a provocation and a violation of the One China principle, and threatened to take countermeasures. 9. Biden unveils China policy. After months of deliberation and consultation, U.S. President Joe Biden unveiled his long-awaited China policy in November 2022. Biden declared that the U.S. would compete with China in a responsible and effective way, while also cooperating on areas of common interest such as climate change, pandemic response, and nuclear non-proliferation. Biden also reaffirmed his commitment to defending human rights, democracy, and rule of law in Hong Kong, Xinjiang, Tibet, and Taiwan. He called on China to abide by international norms and rules, and to refrain from coercion and aggression. 8. Mortgage protests. China's real estate sector faced a severe crisis in 2022, as many developers defaulted on their debts and failed to deliver their projects. Millions of homebuyers who had paid their mortgages in advance were left stranded and angry. They staged protests across the country, demanding refunds, compensation, and justice. They also blamed the government for mismanaging the economy and allowing corruption and fraud. Some protesters even called for Xi Jinping's resignation. 7. The death of Jiang Zemin. In September 2022, China announced the death of former leader Jiang Zemin at the age of 95. Jiang was the paramount leader of China from 1989 to 2002, and he was widely regarded as the mastermind behind China's economic reforms, military modernization, and diplomatic outreach. He was also known for his ruthless crackdown on the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989, his persecution of Falun Gong practitioners since 1999, and his factional struggle with Xi Jinping since 2012. Jiang's death sparked mixed reactions among Chinese people and observers, some mourning his passing while others celebrating his demise. 6. Presidentator for life Xi Jinping. In October 2022, China held its 20th Party Congress, which marked the end of Xi Jinping's second term as the General Secretary of the CCP. However, instead of stepping down or naming a successor as per tradition, Xi announced that he would stay on for a third term or even longer. He also unveiled his new political doctrine called Xi Jinping Thought on Security, which emphasized his absolute authority over all aspects of national security. Xi claimed that he was leading China towards a new era of greatness and glory, while his critics accused him of being a dictator who violated the party constitution and endangered the country's future. 5. Hu Jintao purged. In November 2022, rumors circulated that former leader Hu Jintao had been purged by Xi Jinping for allegedly plotting a coup against him. Hu was the president of China from 2003 to 2013, and he was seen as a moderate and pragmatic leader who pursued a harmonious society and a peaceful rise. He also advocated for scientific development and environmental protection. However, Hu was overshadowed by his predecessor Jiang Zemin, who retained considerable influence and power even after his retirement. Hu was also challenged by his successor Xi Jinping, who launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign that targeted many of Hu's allies and supporters. Hu's removal from the party Congress raised suspicions that he might have been involved in a plot against Xi, or that he might have expressed dissenting views on some of Tsai's policies. 4. Shanghai lockdown. In December 2022, China faced its worst COVID-19 outbreak since the pandemic began in 2019. The virus spread rapidly in Shanghai, China's largest and most cosmopolitan city, infecting thousands of people and causing dozens of deaths. The authorities imposed a strict lockdown on the city, sealing off residential compounds, shutting down public transportation, and closing schools and businesses. Millions of people were trapped in their homes, facing food shortages, power outages, and medical emergencies. The lockdown also disrupted the global supply chain, as Shanghai is a major hub for trade and manufacturing. The lockdown exposed China's lies and cover-ups about its COVID-19 situation, and triggered widespread anger and resentment among the people. 3. Lockdown protests. The lockdowns in Shanghai and other cities sparked nationwide protests against the government's handling of the pandemic. People took to the streets, holding up blank sheets of paper to symbolize their demand for freedom of speech and expression. They also chanted slogans such as, "Down with Xi Jinping," "We want democracy," and "We want human rights." The protesters defied the police brutality and censorship, and shared their videos and messages online. The protests were inspired by a fire that killed 13 Uyghurs who were locked in their apartment in Urumqi, Xinjiang. The protesters held vigils for the victims, and condemned the government's oppression of ethnic minorities. 2. The death of Peng Shuai. In November 2022, China was rocked by the death of Peng Shuai, a former tennis star who accused former Vice Premier Zhang Jiali of sexual assault. Peng posted a detailed account of her ordeal on Weibo, China's Twitter-like platform, but it was quickly deleted by the censors. Peng then disappeared from public view, sparking an international outcry and a campaign to find her. The authorities claimed that Peng was safe and well, but they refused to let her speak freely or meet with anyone. In December 2022, Peng was found dead in her apartment in Beijing, apparently by suicide. However, many people suspected that she was murdered by the regime to silence her. 1. Xi Jinping gets a third term. The biggest story of 2022 was undoubtedly Xi Jinping's consolidation of power at the 20th Party Congress. Xi secured his third term as the General Secretary of the CCP, breaking the precedent of two-term limits that was established by Deng Xiaoping in the 1980s. Xi also elevated his loyalists to key positions in the party leadership, while sidelining or purging his rivals and critics. Xi also unveiled his new political ideology called Xi Jinping Thought on Security, which emphasized his absolute authority over all aspects of national security. Xi claimed that he was leading China towards a new era of greatness and glory, while his critics accused him of being a dictator who violated the party constitution and endangered the country's future. In summary, here are some of the major events and issues that happened in China in 2022, such as China's overseas police stations that interfered in other countries' affairs, China's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Pelosi's visit to Taiwan that angered China, Biden's China policy that balanced competition and cooperation, China's real estate crisis that triggered mortgage protests, the death of former leader Jiang Zemin, the purge of former leader Hu Jintao, the lockdown of Shanghai due to COVID-19 outbreak, the lockdown protests that demanded freedom and democracy, the death of tennis star Peng Shuai who accused a former vice premier of sexual assault, Xi Jinping's third term as the CCP leader and his new political doctrine. Here is a poem about China in 2022. A year of turmoil and change. A year of protests and chaos. A year of lies and cover-ups. A year of power and danger. Xi Jinping rules with an iron fist. He claims to be the savior of China, but he is the source of its problems. He oppresses the people and the world. The people are not silent or blind. They rise up against the tyranny. They demand their rights and dignity. They seek the truth and justice. China in 2022. A year of hope and despair. A year of courage and fear. A year of struggle and sacrifice. A year of awakening and resistance. ***, start planning your next global adventure with ease and convenience with our Booking.com referral link. https://www.booking.com/index.html $aid equals 79893335 as a great choice to plan your next trip. You can find and book flights, hotels, cars, and local attractions all in one place. And their price match guarantee ensures you're getting the best deal. Thank you for kind support our An Hub Metaverse channel, and please watch more interesting videos here.